like a motorbike sound. Really.
Oh, that's funny. Well, good morning, everyone. Last week, Americans saw the result of Republican policy. Let's just talk about the facts for a second. 53 million taxpayers claimed at least one new tax deduction. The average person got a refund of $3,400, an 11% jump from last year. And 30 million workers kept every cent that they paid in taxes on overtime. That makes a difference, folks. And I bring it up again because it's the perfect example of what we're dealing with. Every single Democrat voted no on these tax cuts. That's because, and I say it every week, every single Democrat voted to raise your taxes. Every single Democrat thought that the government was a better steward of that $3,400 that you brought home than you were. Republicans think you actually are a better steward of your money. But think about it. That's crazy what the Democrats are doing. Meanwhile, every Republican voted for you to keep more of your money. It's a simple contrast. That's just common sense. Now, I know that even with bigger refunds, many families are struggling right now. And I get it. But we also owe it to the American people to be honest about how we got here to make sure we don't ever go back again. So let me be candid and let me refresh everybody's memories. We are digging out of a hole. The Biden administration killed the Keystone Pipeline when? Day one. Day one, the Biden administration killed the Keystone Pipeline. Then the Biden administration made it harder to drill, baby, drill. They cut our energy supply. They cut off our permits, and they drained our strategic reserves. That's crazy. From day one, Republicans have been fighting to build America back. America is drilling again. We're opening hundreds of acres of production of American oil, approved nearly 6,000 permits, and set historic records for American exports. That's positive. We should be sharing that. We should be celebrating the positives. I realize that the positive stories don't sell, but we need to tell the truth on truly what's going on. We're filling our reserve and making sure America never has to beg for foreign oil from especially our adversaries. And we're passing legislation, including legislation this week, to scrap burdensome regulations and unlock natural resources. President Trump is fighting right now to make sure the world's leading sponsor of terrorism never gets a nuclear weapon. Because guess what, folks? They tell you they will use their nuclear weapons to kill Americans. And guess what? I actually believe them when they say that. Biden's policies made it harder for America to do that. Period. I'm not passing the buck. I'm giving you the facts. It's crazy that Democrats closed the Keystone Pipeline. It's crazy to rely on our enemies for our oil and our natural gas. And it is crazy to sacrifice our national economic security for woke Green New Deal talking points. So no, energy prices aren't where any of us want them to be. But energy policy is moving in the right direction because Republicans are leading with common sense. Common sense like reopening the Keystone Pipeline. That's common sense. Reinstating drilling permits is common sense. Slashing burdensome red tape is common sense. And you know what? The American people know the difference. So we should focus on a little bit of one, how we got here, and two, what we're doing in a positive fashion to make sure that we never go back. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to our newest member of our conference, Mr. Fuller from Georgia. Welcome. And you'll want to put this up, I'm sure. We only elect people who are tall right now.
It's all right, it may take a little bit. So this is why they recruited me for the basketball game.
And of course, it's got to go right after.
Well, good morning, everyone. I am the new guy. My name is Clay Fuller. I'm representing the mighty 14th District of Georgia. And I grew up in Appalachian communities and rural communities, and for far too long, Washington, D.C. has ignored those communities. It's something that was so eloquently put by our Vice President, J.D. Vance, and Hillbilly Elegy. And those good folks on Main Street and in rural communities in Appalachia, they don't have a lobbyist. And I'm so happy to be here on Capitol Hill to not only fight for them and be a warrior for those communities and be a warrior for rural America and for Georgia 14, but I'm also so happy to work for a president who cares and loves about those communities. And I'm so honored to be part of a Republican leadership team who cares about those communities and are fighting for those communities with great policy and legislation that they've been putting forth in Congress recently. And so this resolution is to make sure that we understand just exactly what this great leadership team is doing and the Republican Conference is putting forward to fight for rural communities and Appalachian communities like mine. And so I just want everyone here to know that I'm going to be a warrior for those communities and for Georgia 14, and so is this Republican leadership. It's my honor of a lifetime to represent them and to be part of this leadership team to fight for those forgotten communities. Thank you.
This is actually kind of nice. Kind of nice. Thank you, Clay. Well, another day and another headline about a certain Congresswoman's not so stellar record of honesty and competence. Last year, Ilhan Omar's financial disclosure revealed skyrocketing wealth. It showed a whopping net worth of up to $30 million, a 3,500% increase in wealth compared to just 2 years prior. Now she's trying to convince the world that she's actually only worth $95,000. Still quite a jump from 2 years ago, but in an eye-popping revision of her disclosure, Ms. Omar is saying the multi-million-dollar discrepancy was nothing more than an accounting error. In what world is a multi-billion-dollar correction to a person's financial disclosure considered normal? Perhaps this member's accountant, perhaps Ilhan's accountant, is a graduate from the Quality Leering Center. Either way, this about-face shows incompetence at best and a cover-up at worst. But this is just the latest in a long list of head-turning stories relating to this member from Minnesota. Ilhan cannot escape accountability much longer. Investigations are ongoing in House committees. The Trump administration has waged war on fraud. Her ties to convicted Feeding Our Future fraudsters are well documented. And her defense of these criminals who stole billions from hardworking taxpayers makes it very clear where her allegiance stands. Make no mistake, if Ilhan Omar is discovered to have been involved in any or to have benefited in any way from any fraud, she must be held accountable to the fullest extent. And by the way, that includes marriage fraud. I yield to our leader.
Thank you, Whip.
It's Minnesota.
Yeah, right. Well, it's another week where House Republicans are bringing bills to the floor to make life more affordable for hardworking families. And if you look at some of the bills that we're bringing this week, more bills to cut red tape. I think families all across America know that Washington usually spends a lot of time at a lot of these federal agencies adding mountains of red tape that just jack up the cost of doing everything in their daily lives. And people are fed up with it. The good news is Republicans are doing something about it. We're bringing bills to reform these laws, to cut red tape in Washington. President Trump did that starting day one, signing executive order after executive order to cut some of the mountains of red tape that Joe Biden added, that were adding so much cost to people's lives. If you just go look at the thousands of rules and regulations that Joe Biden added during his 4 years in office, it added an extra $15,000 per household in extra cost for families. Think about that. A family who's struggling is spending an extra $15,000 to pay for Washington red tape. Now, most families think that that is insane and crazy, and it is. The good news is Republicans are doing something about it. Democrats fight us every step of the way, and that's fine. You're going to be able to see more votes on the House floor that show you where people stand when it comes to allowing families to have more money in their pockets. When people filled out their taxes last week, and we're getting on average $3,400 back because of the bill that we passed, they also recognize that every Democrat voted against that bill because every Democrat wanted to take that money away from them. And if Democrats got the majority, they would reverse those tax cuts so that all hardworking families in America would pay more money to Washington for more fraud. That's what Democrats want. They want to be able to grow the size of government, letting billions being stolen by their friends. And then when we bring anti-fraud measures, they fight that too. But if you look at the bills we're bringing, the Fire Act, for example, allows people to manage forests again so that you don't have wildfires that burn down communities. It's insane that some of the fires that we've seen that have burned communities all across this country were completely preventable, except red tape, primarily out of Washington, stops local communities from managing their own forests. Let's prevent wildfires. The Fire Act allows that to happen. Not only cutting red tape, but saving communities from these wildfires that we see all around the country. If you look at Clay Fuller's resolution, I mean, how about this guy? Comes in, he's not even, he's still got the new member of Congress smell. He's been here a week. And he's already bringing a piece of legislation to the floor to stand up for rural communities in America, to talk about how important rural America is to this great nation. And so I urge everybody to vote for Congressman Fuller's legislation. But it's great to have a fighter for rural America up here in Washington. We're sure glad to have him as a member of our conference. And then we're bringing a bill on the Endangered Species Act, probably one of the most abused laws there is. You've got mice running around that nobody wants, by the way, but the Endangered Species Act will protect a mice over the ability to build a house for somebody in communities where we're trying to get more housing. They'll find things that never even existed. Somebody says they saw some bird flying around a property, and next thing you know, you can't build a house, you can't build a road, you can't build a bridge because of some of these laws being abused over and over again, not to protect species, but to block the ability for us to build things in America. And by the way, abuses of laws like the Endangered Species Act are some of the things that drive up costs on people. You want to bring down affordability? Cut the red tape in Washington. Stop the abuses of some of these laws that are out there, not to protect species, but to allow radical environmentalist groups to go file lawsuits against developments in America so you can't build housing anymore. We're going to open that up again and actually bring common sense back to Washington. It's encouraging and refreshing to see that common sense coming back. We need more of it. We're going to continue delivering with this Republican majority. And our speaker, who is at the forefront of leading that effort, Mike Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. Good morning to everybody. Glad to be back. It's another busy week for House Republicans. I want to thank our new colleague Clay for speaking with you this morning, brand new, and came in with a lot already on the plate. One of your outlets, I can't remember where I read it, but one of you very smartly noted it's a fuller house now with Clay Fuller. So it is. We're happy to have him. We have 5 bills on the floor this week. You heard a little bit about it. I just wanted to make a couple of additional comments about what we're doing here because it's important. All of these things have one thing in common. They're going to streamline permitting and reduce the regulatory burdens on American builders and farmers and innovators and energy producers, and that's what we're all talking about this morning. We're going to pass 2 pieces of legislation that are going to build specifically on President Trump's work to restore America's energy dominance. The Reliable Federal Infrastructure Act rolls back an outdated and inefficient green energy mandate on federal buildings and military installations, which will allow agencies to pursue efficient, cost-effective energy solutions that meet their needs. What a concept. The second one, the HEATS Act, is going to help unlock American geothermal production. This is reliable, renewable energy that has huge potential for diversifying America's energy supply. This legislation will remove unnecessary permitting hurdles and help deliver on Republicans' commitment to an all-the-above approach to affordable American energy. This is a big thing. I mean, the production of American energy is now directly related to national security. The need, the demand for energy is rising dramatically because of AI and all of these other necessities that we have in the economy, and we've got to provide for it. So it's an all the above, and that's what this legislation reflects. Finally, as Leader Scalise was noting, the FIRE Act and the ESA Amendments Act will streamline and clarify environmental regulations, encouraging responsible fire management and the protection of America's diverse wildlife while removing costly and unclear mandates that unfairly penalize good faith actors. It's common sense. That is the theme here. We're going to cut red tape and do the right thing, and the Congress is leading on this. Also this week, the House will pick up where we left off on reauthorizing FISA Section 702. It's must-pass legislation. We've talked about it here before. It preserves the Trump administration's ability to kill terrorists and to prevent attacks on our homeland. This provisional law was created after 9/11, and frankly, one of the reasons we've not had another 9/11 on our shores is because we have this important tool. Congress was able to pass a short-term extension of Section 702 last week, and we're going to continue to work out a longer-term extension. We're confident that we'll be able to find strong bipartisan consensus that builds off of the really meaningful reforms that we included in the legislation the last time we reauthorized it. We did that in 2024. 56 reforms, and they're working just as we planned, and that was we were successful because that was a sensible set of changes. Countries like Russia and China are waging new forms of cyber and intelligence warfare, and of course, as Iran and its proxies threaten the U.S. and our allies, it just bears repeating that this is no time to degrade in any way our ability to protect the homeland and our people, and this is an essential piece of that, an essential component, and failure on it is just simply not an option. With regard to the continued shutdown of Homeland Security, it's shameful. Republicans are sprinting to end the Democrats' shameless shutdown of our Homeland Security Department, and I'm relieved to report this is finally the beginning of the end of this, because Democrats decided to walk away from our bicameral, bipartisan appropriations package that they themselves helped negotiate. That was 2 months ago. They have now left it to us. Republicans are going to be forced to do the responsible thing of ending this shutdown on our own. It's unthinkable to me, but this is where they are. The Democrats have decided they will not fund. They want $0 to secure the border. They want $0 to enforce federal immigration law. That's where they are. It's been 2 months of partisan obstruction, 2 months of chaos at American airports, 2 months of missed paychecks for hundreds of thousands of faithful employees in the Department of Homeland Security, which I note all the time is the 3rd largest department in our government. And when we do this, here's the great irony of it, Democrats are going to get absolutely nothing for their dangerous game they played here. Republicans in the House and the Senate recognize that funding for the security of Americans' homeland isn't some political football, but the Democrats seem to think it is. And that's why through a targeted and narrow reconciliation process, we will fully fund the agency, including ICE and CBP, for 3 years into the future. This is great news for every American who supports secure borders and safe communities and chaos-free airports. In the coming days, the House will be working closely with the Senate as they commence on that reconciliation process. And it should not be forgotten that Democrats shut down the 3rd largest department of the federal government with all of its 10 agencies charged with keeping everybody safe. And they did that for political purposes. They've kept it shut down for over 2 months now. We're on day 65. It's the longest in history because they'd rather reopen the border than pay our hardworking men and women of our law enforcement. They would rather defund the police than pay our TSA workers at the airport. They would rather endanger the American homeland than fund basic immigration enforcement. I've said it before, I'll say it again. You heard the theme here this morning. You'll hear it all the way through the election cycle. Our politics have now entered a new era. It's called common sense versus crazy. Republicans return to common sense versus Democrats, just madness. This shutdown is a shameful episode in the history of the Democrat Party. This is not our father's Democrat Party. Watch what happens. We administered the oath to a member last night who has some pretty far left positions. We expect more of that to come from that party, and it's not where the American people are. And it's yet another example of their preference for open borders and dangerous communities over the safety and security of American citizens. So I answered a couple questions. Second row, yes, ma'am. We'll get there. We have to. We've got to make sure that the homeland is protected, and there's been lots of consternation amongst lots of members about how this devolved. It's not the fault of the Republican Party, it's the fault of the Democrats because they decided to break off, again, after, remember, they helped negotiate the bipartisan bicameral homeland bill, and then they decided for political purposes they would pull off ICE and CBP, immigration enforcement and border. And you can't do that. You can't isolate and have orphan agencies of the department. You've got to fund it all. Well, they've determined to do that, which means we've got to use a reconciliation vehicle in order to fund those critical components. But we'll figure this out. We've got lots of discussions today and in the coming days to make sure that we can get that through, and I think we will. And I certainly hope it's bipartisan. Look, if you're a Democrat in the House or Senate, do you want to go down on the record of just saying, I want zero funding to close the border? You might remember, border security was the #1 issue in 2024. The only reason people aren't up in arms about it at the moment is because we solved the problem. But Democrats want to reopen it. That's what that means. Ask them. Wait a minute, hold on. Ask the Democrats in the Senate and the House. You want zero funding for border security? That means it reopens. That's what that means. That's the reality. Right.
On that bill, I mean, take your point on the bill, but the White House is paying DHS employees right now, but must vote and the administration have warned they're going to run out of money for that. So is there any chance of passing that bulk of DHS bill before reconciliation if there seems to be progress on that to avoid another lapse and to get most of the department running?
The sequencing is important. We've got to make sure that we don't isolate and, as I say, make an orphan out of key agencies of the department. And there's some concern on our side that if you do the bulk of the department first before that, then they could be left out. We can't allow for that. So we're working through that. The sequencing is important, and the language of the legislation is important as always, and we'll get there. Just stay tuned on it.
Mr. Speaker, thank you, Speaker. Do you have faith in the House Ethics Committee? It's really the only avenue that members can police one another up here on Capitol Hill, yet there are still reports of misconduct, reports of inappropriate relationships, and there have been investigations that have been ongoing for months with no resolution in sight.
Well, yeah, let me say this about the House Ethics Committee. This has been, this committee and this cycle and the last cycle, I mean, this has been, the last two Congresses have been very busy for the Ethics Committee. We live in an age, look, let me just back up. There's always been untoward activity among political figures. I mean, going back to time immemorial, right? There's always been marital infidelity. There's always been despicable behavior. It occurs to us that it may not have always been exposed and as transparent as it is today because of the very active, press corps and 24-hour news cycle and smartphones and everything being recorded. And so what that means is the House Ethics Committee is an essential component of this institution. They keep the faith in the institution by policing their own members. And when allegations are made against members of Congress, they take it very seriously. There's a number of deliberate steps that are taken where due process is provided. Now, you can't just take action against a member based on allegations. There's got to be some element of due process, and it's an important part of our constitutional system and traditions. And so our ability to do that in the House is governed by the bipartisan House Ethics Committee. You cannot take a step forward against a member unless there is a bipartisan vote. There's lots of safeguards in there for the due process. Sometimes it takes a long time. I'll note this with Sheriff McCormick, for example, who have her effectively her sentencing phase of her of that process today. That's a very rare thing. The last one was in 2010 against a former member, Charlie Rangel, because typically when a member is facing serious charges, they will just resign from Congress. You saw 2 examples of that last week. This particular individual decided not to do that. I mean, she's gone all the way, and she I won't say, I don't know if obstruction is the right word, but she certainly delayed the process. They've been working for over 2 years on an investigation of these allegations against Sheriff McCormick. She did not cooperate. She fought them at every turn, and so that takes longer and longer for it to go through. Look, I think that the Ethics Committee, in a bipartisan fashion, I think the members are all there in good faith. I think they're doing their best to do good work in very difficult circumstances, and we rely upon that work. And we insist upon due process because we have to, because it protects it protects the institution, and it protects those who voted to send everybody here. The people. That's what this is about. So, look, we're going to police this institution as best we can. We're going to admonish members when they get out of line. We're going to censure them when necessary. We kick them off committees when necessary, and in a rare occasion, they get expelled. That may happen here shortly, and we'll see what happens next.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, in the case with Mr. Swalwell, women didn't feel safe reporting to Congress. They had to go to the press. The same with Mr. Gonzalez. What reforms can be put in place so that female staffers feel safe coming and reporting so that they don't have to go to the press?
It's a great question. I mean, we are looking at every potential avenue to tighten up the rules and make sure that women have an avenue to report. You may know this. I have 2 daughters who work on Capitol Hill on committee staffs, okay? Very serious to me, all right? I'm a father. I'm not just the Speaker of the House. I'm a member that is directly involved in this. For that very reason, we have to protect women and anyone who feels like there's any inappropriate behavior whatsoever. So if there are ways to tighten the rules, suggestions, we're seeking that from all members. We're open to that. And I suspect you'd get bipartisan, almost hopefully unanimous support to do that. We have a lot of mechanisms in place, but we're always open to making that safer and more secure. And I will lead that myself for the obvious reasons, okay? So we're doing the best we can under difficult circumstances. I will say this. I think candidate recruitment is a big part of this as well, okay? And I've been in charge of that for 2 cycles on the Republican side, and we are very carefully recruiting people who are serious legislators, persons of great integrity, who will come here and roll up their sleeves and work for the people as the founders envisioned this. We don't need people running for Congress because they want to be famous. We don't need people running for Congress because they see this as some sort of opportunity for their own individual endeavors. I'll leave it at that. You've got to screen for the right people, and I'm confident there's enough patriotic Americans who are willing to come serve sacrificially in this institution and do it right. In the meantime, we're going to tighten up the rules and make sure that we're on top of that, and I commit that to you. Thanks.